Okay, so we're now recording this session. So this is basically saying that you are giving permission for this to be recorded. I'm the skills tutor that will be delivering the Team Leaders of the Future programme. I'm here to support you, deliver the sessions, work with you and work alongside you and the manager of the setting. I converse with Liz Richardson a lot around different aspects so that we are all working as a one unit. One of the things I will say is I'm here to help and support. I don't want you to think that you're alone. I'm here to give you whatever advice, guidance, and meet your needs. So if you can't attend a meeting for whatever reason, we do give options of how to catch up. So when you're considering this, think about the fact that we are trying to make it so that it is easy. I've been in the position you're in, so I know how difficult it is to work and do a training course at the same time, because I did my degree alongside working full time. So I know how difficult it is and how time consuming it is. But I will help you throughout the sessions to get to what you want to achieve with this qualification.
Thank you very much for that, Sandra. I will just, this files are quite large, so I'm going to have to just send this over as a PDF, but I'm just trying to convert it now, and then hopefully I can get this sent over to Nicole so she can see what we're going to be discussing. While I'm doing this, I will just do a quick introduction of myself as well. So I'm Megan Coles. I'm People Development Specialist at Eden. So as Sandra said, she's going to be your tutor for the duration of your programme, but the role that I have in terms of your delivery really is I've been part of the team that actually creates the resources that you're going to have as part of your training. So anything that you see in terms of the PowerPoints and the handouts, I'm part of the team in terms of developing those. So what we aim to do is make them a mixture of Eden and ICP so that it's specific to your organisation. So you're not only receiving the training that you need to gain the standard and gain the qualification, but it's also to help you develop as managers specifically within ICP as well. So any feedback that you have throughout is obviously very welcome. So any of the sessions that Sandra does with you will be at the moment probably done through Teams due to the current situation, but hopefully we will eventually get back to some kind of face-to-face delivery down the line. But any feedback that you have on the sessions is obviously welcome. If there's anything that you think needs developing or positive feedback as well would be great. So so the plan for the session really today is to go through this onboarding, this open day, so that you've got all of the information about the qualification. But as we're going through, if you do have any questions at all, feel free to shout up on Teams, or you can pop a question into the chat as well, whichever you feel comfortable with, and we can answer those ongoing, and we will have a bit of time at the end for a question and answer, just in case there is anything that you want to raise at the end of the presentation. Any questions so far? Is everybody happy? Yeah. No, fantastic. Right, I will just really quickly, I apologise, just try and send this attachment over so that Nicola's got a copy of what we're going through. I'll be 1 second. There you go, Nicole. Sorry, that should be on the way over to you now, so you'll be able to keep up with the presentation with the rest of us. Okay. So let's make a start. So we'll look at what the programme actually entails, so in terms of Eden as an organisation, but also the qualification that you will be signing up for, the benefits of choosing to develop yourselves, the quality, skills and attitudes that you will develop whilst on programme. We will specifically look at the Team Leader Supervisor Standard, which is the one that you would be enrolling onto if you choose to take that step onto the apprenticeship. And how that links to the Leaders of the Future plan with ICP. So it isn't just, as I said, it's not just a qualification that you will be achieving. It is a development programme for leaders within the ICP settings. We'll look at what your learner journey is going to look like. You will have a mixture of on-programme blended learning, so we'll look at what that's actually going to look like as we're going through. We'll discuss off-the-job training and the impact of training on you guys and on the organisation that you're in. So, something that's really important to think about is how training and development can actually help you as an individual as well as an organisation. So 96% of managers say that they've experienced benefits from investing in training, and most can count at least 8 benefits from doing the training. So that may be managers that have completed the training themselves, but it also may be managers of organisations, their own staff has done the training. 8 out of 10 managers say that the training has improved service quality as well as improving productivity. 69% of managers say that training and development improves staff retention, with most employees staying with the company that trained them. I think as any member of staff, if you know that your organisation is choosing to train and to put money into the training of you as an individual, you do feel more valued, and that can have a big increase on retention and choosing to stay with an organisation that is willing to develop the staff further. 9 out of 10 managers would recommend training and development to other managers as well. So following their programme, people who have completed the training have said the positives about it and recommended that to other people that they're working with. So in terms of the Leaders of the Future programme then, so the Management Development Programme is designed to support nursery managers with more competent and empowered room leaders and deputies. So it's in the role that you're in, but also giving you future leadership skills as well. If you ever wanted to progress further, then this is an opportunity for you to develop those further skills. So the ICP Leaders of the Future programme will be ICP focused, so that will include tailored and bespoke sessions. So obviously the standard that we deliver is quite generic, but then we will always tweak that to suit your organisation. So we'll get as much information as we can about your policies and your procedures and your current practices, and we will tailor that around you and your settings. So as much as it is a standalone generic qualification, it's going to be very much tailored to what you're doing. And so you will feel like you're studying, you're learning, but it's also helping you to tweak and tailor the practices that you're currently using as well. So it's not all going to be brand new to you. So to develop our next ICP Nursery Superstars, the ICP Senior Leadership Team will support and enrich employees to enhance their own career development opportunities. So as part of this, there is a substantial amount of work that comes from a mentor as well. So that would be someone within your own organisation who will conduct observations and witness testimonies on you and provide feedback on how you're performing. So there will be an opportunity for you to be gaining feedback from your own colleagues as well. So it's not just from us as Eden, it's very much merged into the ICP way of working. So looking at what your programme will look like then, so with any apprenticeship, you have what's called an on-programme period. So that is the period of time that you will be learning and your sessions will take place. So that will be around 12 months of being on programme from the day that you choose to sign up. And you'll have at least one visit a month from Sandra, whether that be remote or face-to-face, depending on the situation that we're in. But it'll be a 15-month programme because we do allow time at the end for endpoint assessment, but we'll look in that in a little bit more detail as we're going through. You will combine hands-on work with training and obtaining your qualification. So it's not just going to be sitting on a session and then walking away and then your next session is next month and you're not doing anything in between. It's very much skills. So if you are in a position where you could potentially work with a colleague or you could train a colleague, all of that is helping you to develop the skills that you'll be using as a manager. So it's a mixture of face-to-face and hands-on employment work. Obviously you're working and earning at the same time. Obviously you're all in a position at the moment, which is why you're on this call. So you continue earning the same as you were earning before, but you will be learning as well in addition to that, which is one of the plus sides of an apprenticeship. 20% of your working time will be set aside for learning in the workplace. What that doesn't mean is one day a week you'll be sat doing study. What that means is we'll look at the role that you're currently doing and we'll allocate some of the tasks to the development of your qualification and your knowledge, skills and behaviours. So what part of what Sandra will do is to complete your personal learning plan with you, which is where you can regularly log any CPD that you've done, anything where you've learned new knowledge, skills and behaviours as part of your role, and all of that goes towards your 20%. So we will look at that again in a little bit more detail as we go through the presentation. So the rest of the time is spent applying your acquired knowledge and skills within the workplace. So when you've covered a session with Sandra, it might be around coaching and mentoring, for example, you'll then take that knowledge that you've learned and you'll put that into practice to further develop your skills and your behaviours within that particular area. So ICP Nurseries is a funded investment opportunities and are available for anyone over the age of 16. So it is fully funded. It's not something that you would have to be expected to make any contribution towards yourself. It is a funded programme. So we've looked at the benefits already. This area looks at what you will develop outside of the normal generic standard qualification. So across every standard that's been developed by Ofqual, there are behaviours that you will learn and skills that you will learn which are going to be transferable across any qualification and most roles that you're in. So they do class them as employability skills. Obviously, you are employed already, so it's not like you are going to be needing to develop specific employability skills. But I'm sure if you look through the list that are on there, you can see that they are essential skills that you would want yourself to have, but also want your own staff to have as well. And so what we do is we blend this in and merge it into everything that we deliver so that you are continually developing these skills. But also as a team leader, you'll be learning about how to help develop your staff's skills in these areas as well. So obviously having a positive attitude, being able to communicate to a high level, working as a team, especially at the moment, I think is more important than ever. Self-management, so being able to allocate your own time to continue with your studies, having that willingness to learn as well, which is the reason why we do these open days, is we want everyone to come in with a clear picture of exactly what this study journey is going to look like for you, so that you do come in motivated with that willingness to learn. Looking at how to deal with problems and having a resilience to change as well, which I'm sure you're all doing quite a lot of at the moment with changes that are coming in quite regularly. So they're the skills that we'll merge and blend into our study as we're going through the programme. So it was found in a study that was done by the ILM that the four most important future leadership skills are among the weakest competencies in today's leaders. So this is a generic finding from a nationwide study that took place. The four key future leadership skills are the ones that are on screen. So obviously as a leader, you would be expected to lead your employees. So it's not something that it's just purely for you to develop, but it's how you can then put them skills forward to develop your own employees within your teams. Strategic planning is when you're looking forward and you're looking at where the organisation is heading, what strategic plan they have for the future, and it's making sure your targets and your goals align with that strategic plan. Change management. Again, at the moment, we're going through massive changes quite regularly, so being able to manage that change process is key, and that is quite a big area that will. And it's looking at not just how to manage that change, but to ensure that your staff are on board with that change as well, because the last thing you need when you're doing an implementation of change is to have battles with your staff on a regular basis. So that is quite a large part of what we'll cover. And then inspiring commitment. So you want your team to stay with you. You want to develop your staff so that they are committed to stay with your organisation. So that they're the four that, as I said, the ILM have found, and we will cover all four of them as part of your training. So that's some areas that we will develop and go throughout the programme. So in terms of team leader supervisors and who they can be, so there's a varying amount of different roles and responsibilities involved in being a team leader supervisor. So some of the main responsibilities which will help with the development of this qualification, so supporting, managing and developing a team of people. The size of that team does not matter. You may have a team of 2, you may have a team of 10, but it's just that you've got that responsibility of coaching and mentoring and managing that particular team of people. Managing projects, so again, the scale of the projects aren't relevant. It could be quite a small project, or it could be a whole organisational project. That does vary depending on what setting and what role you're in. Planning, monitoring workloads and resources. So that might be looking obviously at ratios and if you've got the right number of staff in for the number of children that are in and what you can do if someone was to ring in sick, things like that. It's the workloads of staff and how you're monitoring and planning against those. Delivering operational plans. So as an organisation, they may plan to make a change and you would help to deliver that within your own individual settings. And then resolving problems. So I'm sure probably daily or weekly at least you'll face some kind of problem and some kind of issue within the setting that you'll be responsible for helping to resolve. So if you feel like you've covered all or most of those responsibilities, then it sounds like you're probably in a very good position to do this qualification. If there are any areas on there that you don't feel like you cover, obviously we can have a chat about that later or on the call if you do feel comfortable mentioning it. But I know there are opportunities for us to add some additional responsibilities for you to cover any areas that you need to as part of that qualification. So don't let that put you off too much. We can always have a chat about that. So in terms of the roles, then there's varying different job titles that can cover team leader, supervisors. They're just some examples across wider organisations. But as long as you are hitting those responsibilities, your job title, it doesn't make that much of a difference. It's more about what you can show as part of your development ongoing. Any questions or concerns at this point before we move on? Does everyone feel okay about that so far? Fantastic, okay. So every standard qualification now has a list of knowledge, skills and behaviours. So ongoing throughout your qualification, you'll hear Sandra make reference to knowledge, skills and behaviours, or KSBs. So they're a list of different areas in the qualification that you have to learn about, but then also develop and present and show that you've developed those skills whilst on programme. So we've talked about a few of these already, so I won't go through all of them in detail, but obviously leading people, being aware of what different leadership styles are, what the benefits of coaching and developing your team are. You've then got managing people. So we'll do a clear differentiation between what leading is and what managing is, because it is two different roles. But managing people looks at team management models and performance management techniques. So that's things like your one-to-ones and KPIs and anything of that management structure within your organisation. One of the areas that some people feel a little bit wary of is the finance section. So because you are in individual settings that's part of a wider organisation, your level of ability or your level of responsibility working around finances may vary. A lot of your finance will be covered in any of the projects that you do. So again, don't worry if you're not part of budgeting or governance and compliance right now, you will have that responsibility and we'll cover that as part of your project. Again, that's something that we can look at and talk through if you do have any concerns about that before you choose to sign up. Any questions or concerns about anything that's on screen? You feel happy that you'd be able to cover off most of those? Fantastic. So the way that the sessions work is with Sandra, she will teach you the knowledge that you need in each of these different areas. So she will give you, there'll be a handbook that you'll receive, which will have all of the information in. There'll also be presentations that you'll go through, handouts that you'll complete, worksheets, things like that. That's all the knowledge base, so that you'll have a full working knowledge of each of these different areas. What you'll do then is you'll take the knowledge that you've learned and use that to develop your skills. So you'll go away and practice project management, or you'll go away and practice different leadership styles. You'll assess and evaluate your own way of working to help to develop your skills even further. And then your behaviours will run consistently throughout everything that you do. So from the first session that you have to the last, you'll be developing your leadership behaviours. So you won't be expected to know all of this from day one. Sandra will take you through that and do that learning with you so that you feel confident in them areas before you move on to develop. So as I've mentioned, we do a blended learning approach. So you will have face-to-face learning, which at the moment is done through Teams, but it is still technically face-to-face. And then you'll have online learning, which will be completed through Video, Tile or Laser. So there are two online platforms that we do. I'm obviously aware that you guys use your own online learning platforms as well. So if you wanted to use your own online courses in place of ours, that is absolutely fine. I know some learners do choose to do that. but if not, you will have full access to all of our online learning as well. So we won't make you duplicate anything that you've already done internally. So when we put them together, that creates a blended learning approach. So you will have a mixture of the face-to-face and the online learning, which will take place throughout your on-programme period. As soon as we can get back to face-to-face, we will hopefully be doing that. Obviously, that's something that we'll plan for as it happens. It may not be anytime soon, but the sessions that take place with Sandra through Teams, they're very engaging, and she does get you all involved. So it is like being face-to-face, but obviously with everyone working independently from their own settings. So some examples of the blended learning examples are presentation skills, communication skills, developing your teamwork, project management, and then personal professional development. So there are some of the online courses that we do offer. And then I believe on the next page, we've got another few examples. So these are just some of the online learning content that we do offer for you to do between sessions. So Sandra, for example, might cover conflict resolution with you in the session. You'll then be set the online course to do, which might take you an hour or two to work through independently, and that will generate a certificate for you. So that'll reinforce what Sandra's covered in that session already with you and give that additional information that you may need from there. So in terms of your learner journey then and what you'll be expected to complete, so from the point where you agree and you choose that this is the right qualification for you and you do want to enrol onto this, you'll be sent your sign-up paperwork to complete, which will give us all of the information that we need from you to put you onto the system and engage you as a learner. You'll also receive a link to initial assessments in English, Maths and ICT. So that's using a skills forward system. It's not a test, it's just an assessment of your current skills, so that if you do need to complete any training on maths and English, then we can support you at the right level with that as we go through. So you will receive all of that through to complete that in your own time. Your personal learning plan will then be developed with Sandra, so that is looking at what you will be doing whilst on programme, but also looking at what development you plan to do. So if you're delivering regular team meetings or you've got the opportunity to work shadow, everything like that will get plotted into your PLP towards the beginning of your programme, so that we can see what your learning journey is going to look like. Once you're on programme then, you will complete your functional skills qualifications if you don't already hold an exemption. Anything that's an exemption is an A to C at GCSE, a functional skills level 2 qualification, or a key skills level 2 qualification. If you have got those already, all we would need is a copy of your certificate, and you won't have to achieve your functional skills whilst on programme. If you're unable to find your certificate or don't have any already, then we would do that development whilst on programme through individual sessions, again with Sandra and using the skills forward system. You'll have group and one-to-one sessions, so group team sessions will take place, but Sandra will also book in one-to-one catch-up sessions with you as well, so that you've got that one-on-one time with your tutor. And obviously, as I've said, you'll complete your online learning modules as well through that blended learning approach. Whilst on programme then, you will be expected to do the 20% off the job training hours, so we'll look at that in a bit more detail, but that only runs during your on programme period, so just for that 12 months on programme. Once you've gone through that programme period, you will go through what's called Gateway. So one of the new changes to the apprenticeship standards is that you go through a Gateway meeting where it's yourself, your employer and your tutor, and everyone will meet and agree that you've met everything that you need to meet as part of the qualification, and that's when you then get handed over to the endpoint assessor. So all of your knowledge, skills and behaviours will have developed whilst on programme, but they won't actually be assessed until the very end of your programme, and that is done by an independent endpoint assessor who is given to you from an assessment organisation. So at the moment, we're using a company called Active IQ, who's our awarding organisation. So it's somebody who works for them that does your assessment. Before you complete your assessment, you will have a full mock endpoint assessment conducted with us at Eden. So you'll know exactly what that endpoint assessment will look like, and you'll have gone through that mock experience beforehand. All the way through your programme as well, Sandra is going to be preparing you for this endpoint assessment. So by the time it comes round in 12 months, you'll know exactly what to expect. It won't be a shock to you at all. Once you've gone through endpoint assessment, you receive your final grading, and that at that point is when you are fully qualified with the Team Leader Supervisor Level 3 standard qualification. Any questions or concerns about the journey so far? We are going to look at some bits in a bit more detail. Okay, fantastic. So in terms of the endpoint assessment then, what that looks like for this qualification is you will be expected to do a presentation to your endpoint assessor, and you will be expected to have a professional discussion. So all of this takes place on one day. At the moment, they're all being completed remotely. Again, it would vary depending on the situation that we're in at the time. Your presentation is going to be about your learning journey, what you've developed whilst you've been on programme, how you feel that you've met the criteria that you need to meet, what your project was that you did. That will be a 20-minute presentation that you'll have prepared for in advance with the support of your tutor and your employer. And then there'll be a 30-minute question and answer session that will take place following that presentation. So the reason that there's a question and answer after that is so that that endpoint assessor can get any additional information from you that you maybe not covered, or they want to clarify any points from you. So it's an opportunity for you to give them as much information as possible. Obviously, the more detail that's in your presentation, probably the less questions they may ask in the question and answer session. But it's just making sure that you have that opportunity to clarify any points that they've maybe not understood or they feel you need to cover in more detail. Your professional discussion then will be underpinned by a portfolio of learning. So whilst on programme with Sandra, she will help you and support you to develop your portfolio of learning. So this is all going to be evidence about how you have met the knowledge, skills and behaviours. So if you've chaired a meeting, we might have a witness testimony of the meeting. You may have done a reflective log about that, about how you've met the criteria, or Sandra may have done an observation on you. Lots of different types of evidence that can be included within your portfolio. If you're doing regular one-to-ones with staff, that can all be included. If you deliver a project as part of your qualification, that project can be included as well. So there's lots of different types of evidence that can be gathered. Your professional discussion will be 60 minutes long. And again, it's an opportunity for that endpoint assessor to talk through your portfolio with you, get lots of information about how you've done things, why you've done things in the way that you have. But it's all based on your real experiences that you've had whilst on programme. So they're not going to be testing you on a specific model that you've learnt about. It's about how you've applied that model in your real working practice. When you actually get to your endpoint assessment, you'll find that it is quite relaxed. It is formal because it is an assessment, but they're not there to test you, to catch you out. They're there to question you, to get information from you. So they're very nice people, they're very relaxed, and it does take place in quite a nice way. The structure of it is quite comfortable. It's not a panel interview or anything like that that's too intense and too formal. In terms of the grading then, so the opportunity for the grading is a pass or a distinction. The way that the qualification works is there will be a list of pass criteria. So to achieve a pass, you need to hit all of that pass criteria. So you'll know exactly what that is, and you'll know exactly what you need to do to be able to achieve it. To be able to get a distinction, you then have to go one step further and hit all of the distinction criteria. So if you were to fall short on a little bit of the distinction criteria, you would still achieve a pass. But we would aim all the way through to give you that distinction grade. So you'd have the opportunity to meet that at every point. And that's what we would be aiming for as we go through. Obviously, if you choose to aim for a pass over a distinction, that is completely up to you. But the information that you will be get given is so that you can achieve that distinction grade. Any questions or concerns about endpoint assessment? If it's a new process, I know sometimes it can sound a little bit different from what you've maybe done before. No, okay, brilliant. So on to the off-the-job training. So it is clarified as 20% of your time on programme. So in your personal learning plan, Sandra will ask you about how many hours you work. That'll then get put into a formula and calculate the number of off-the-job training hours that you'll be expected to do as part of your qualification. As I've mentioned, that doesn't mean that you are just going to be sat at a computer one day a week doing your study, because we all know that that is not real life and it's not going to be possible to do that. What we try and do is link that very much into your role, so that by doing your role, you're automatically covering a lot of the hours off already, because you're constantly developing, you're constantly learning new skills. And it's when, like I said, when you've had the session with Sandra and learnt that new knowledge, you'll be then taking the time to go away and apply that. And that time where you're applying it can go towards your 20% off the job. So these are some examples of what can be covered. Shadowing or mentoring members of staff, any practical training that you do, if you go and work across other departments or other organisations, which I know is obviously tricky at the moment, to be able to do that. Attending your sessions with Sandra, so as a theory session, that would be included. The only thing that isn't is if it's some form of assessment that's taking place. If you've got a new rollout within your organisation, so a new piece of software that's being rolled out, or a new process or a new policy, all of that can be included as well. So during your PLP visit, Sandra will discuss all of this with you. We'll discuss your job role and get as much of this logged in advance as we can to cover off the hours that you need to cover. There's a few questions that you can ask yourself as to whether something does fall into the off-the-job training category. So if you answer yes to the first 3 questions across the top, it can class as off-the-job. So is it directly relevant to the qualification? Is it about being a team leader supervisor? If it is, then you can include it. If that teaching is taking place and it's actually developing new knowledge, skills and behaviours, then you can include it. And if it's taking place during your normal working hours, then you can include it. What you can't include is if you sat doing some study on a Saturday, or if you sat doing it at 8 o'clock at night. It's only supposed to take place during your actual working hours for it to be included in off the job. If you do want to do some further maths and English study, it needs to be above level 2 for it to be included. Anything that's below level 2 would not be included in the off the job because it's a separate pot of funding for your functional skills. That is very rare that anyone chooses to do extra development in maths and English, but obviously that is there as an option if you did want to do it. So it's mainly these first 3 questions that you would be asking yourself about whether something does fall into the category. Obviously, Sandra is here to support you throughout. So if you're not sure about anything, you can just send it over to Sandra and she'll be able to tell you whether it does fall into the right category on that or not. Any questions or concerns about off the job? No, fantastic, thank you. So finally then, in terms of the impact of management training, so management training increases productivity in the workplace. The CMI found that in February 2019, that 92% of people were more productive at work following the study. 89% had a positive impact on the contribution to work, and 74% achieve a promotion within the current role once they've completed the training. So it's very beneficial for you, but also for your organisation as well, which again why it's a joint project between Eden and ICP to help to develop staff internally. So that is it from me. Thank you very much for obviously taking part, and if you do have any questions at this point, both myself and Sandra are happy to stay on. Liz, is there anything that you would like to add to the end of this, or do you feel like everything's been covered?
I think everything's been covered. Sorry, just to clarify in terms of the off-the-job training, and sort of, obviously they attend the training at the moment, it's online, but hopefully in the future it will be face-to-face. I don't know what sort of future that's going to be. It might be a little way off. So they get time to attend the Microsoft Teams meetings. Do you normally expect that they have any other time out of work to do any of the training, or do they do some of that in their own time, and what does that commitment look like?
In terms of the off-the-job training, for it to class towards the 20%, it does need to be done during work hours. But what we try and do is build that in as much as possible with the activities that they're already doing, so that there would be just, when they're completing an activity, trying to apply the new knowledge that they've learned to it, rather than doing something in addition to what they would normally be doing. In some circumstances, there may be extra time needed, for example, the completion of the online courses. But if they're doing that as not part of the normal CPD practice anyway, it can be the same courses. So, for example, we might have a course on safeguarding, which I know you guys do a lot internally anyway. So it's absolutely fine to use your own course instead of using ours. So it wouldn't be in addition to what the training is that's already taking place.
That training will be done in work time.
Yes, yeah. The functional skills training, if they did need to do it, can take place outside of work because it's not included in the 20% off the job. So that might be accessing the skills forward system and completing any development on those maths and English qualifications. But that would obviously depend on whether they've got exemptions and stuff up in advance of that.
Okay, and so in terms of sort of completing activities and things like that, do they do that in their own time, you know, written documentation of work? Do they do that in their own time?
A lot of the activities, we try and build them into the sessions that take place with Sandra. So it might be that we do a little bit of teaching around a section, and then Sandra will send them a copy of the activity, and then they complete that during the session as well. If there isn't the opportunity to do that, then they may be sent those activity handouts to complete. A lot of that is around gathering product evidence as well. So that would be done using probably work equipment, obviously confidentially, so they can blank out names and things like that. But so that would be done probably during working hours so that they can gather that evidence whilst they're on site, because they wouldn't necessarily have access to that outside of working hours.
I just want to be sure that we set everybody realistic expectations of what's involved. We've had a couple of people withdraw because they're saying they haven't time to complete the programme. So just want to be sure that everybody understands what the commitment is from themselves.
Yeah. Sandra, how long are your teaching sessions? Are they normally 2 or 3 hours?
I try and make a group delivery session is about 3 hours, and if it's a one-to-one session, it's about 2 hours. And what I try and do is when I'm doing a delivery session, I give them time to have a look at the activities, make a few notes, so that then when we finish the session, they can use the notes to finish it off and tidy it up. So it shouldn't be a long, drawn-out process. It depends on the learner and how they perceive the work that they're doing. Some learners like to go into lots of detail. Some learners don't need to put a lot of detail. So it's about the learner as well and what they want to do. So some learners do take work and do it at home so that it's completed and then send it me back. Some do it in the session and then just tidy it up. It is down to individual people.
Okay, thank you.
One thing that I will say is if anybody's joining this cohort of team leaders and you've got other members of staff within your nursery that are doing the team leading that I'm doing at the moment, there is a slight difference. There's been some changes within the programme. So if your colleagues are saying, oh, we've got a test to do, please don't panic. It has slightly changed for this cohort. It's not us that's changed it. It is the active IQ, and I'm just aware that colleagues do talk to one another, and then all of a sudden they start panicking because, well, I'm not doing that. Sandra's never said anything about that. It's the development of the awarding body and what they do as well. So that does change.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. That's worth mentioning. So the endpoint assessment process for the existing learners that are in cohort 1 does look different. They've got a knowledge test, a professional discussion, a project. So they've got quite a lot more elements to it than this cohort would have. And as Sandra says, that's a change from the awarding organisation and Ofqual. So it's the same across the board, but the endpoint assessment that we've gone through today would be the process that you would be following. So you wouldn't have that knowledge test anymore, which I think would be a relief for probably me if I was doing it again. So yeah, it's just a lot smaller of an endpoint assessment now. So it's a little bit different.
I do want to say that I've attended a couple of Sandra's sessions, and they're really detailed, lots of information. The course handbook is really and easy to read and to understand. So it's a really lovely course and a really lovely opportunity to look at these leadership and management skills and think about how you use them in nursery. So it's a great course.
Thank you very much, Liz. That's lovely to hear as well. And you will get supported throughout from Sandra. She's always there if you want to ask any questions, but it's the same before you make the decision about signing up as well. Both myself and Sandra are here to answer any questions that you've got. So you will get a copy of the presentation and the recording. So if you listen to it back or reading it through, if you do come up with any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact us if you're just undecided about whether to enrol or not. Hopefully we can answer your questions to help you make that decision. So if there isn't any other questions at this point, I'll say thank you very much to everybody who's been able to join. I will get the copy sent out to you as well as the recording. It may have to be done through a shared folder because of the size of the file, but you'll get an email through just explaining how to access that. And as I said, in the meantime, if you do have any questions, feel free to contact either myself or Sandra about that.
I will also say, Megan, that I'm not a 9 to 5 person. So if anybody's got questions and they want to talk to me after work's finished, because I know nurseries don't finish till 6 and 7 o'clock at night, I am still available. If I can answer, I will.
Thank you very much. Right, lovely. Thank you all very much. We will stay on if anyone has any questions, but for now, I'll just stop the recording for you.